Hey everyone. So welcome to our third meetup of software testing board. So this meetup we are going to first see the this is what going to be our agenda of this meetup. We are going to understand what this meetup is about. How do you join the meetup and talk by our speaker. And after that, we are going to discuss about LinkedIn page that we have and meetup.com for RSVP. And also, I'm going to explain you how to be a speaker during the next meetup. So, first of all, what is this meetup about, right? So, this meetup is completely online meetup. Earlier, we had a group of people meeting up at the one point, but then it was difficult to bring people come and travel to the meeting point. So we made it online completely. So it happens through Google Hangout and YouTube. And usually the agenda of this meetup is to introduce the new tools and framework or technology in a software testing. So anything that is related to software testing, you can share it with the community. And this meetup happens on every fourth Saturday of the month at 5 p.m. IST. That is the time that we have fixed. So first of all, how do you join? So as a audience, you can go to our meetup page, and you will find the live stream video going on over there. So let me just show you the page here. So you can come to this page, and you can see the live video that is going on over there, and you will also see the presentation, all the presentation that is being presented on this video. If you want to quickly go to the meetup.com, you can this meetup you can go to softwaretestingboard.com/meetups, and there you can click on ongoing, and this ongoing link will take you to this meetups page. Apart from that, you can also join us through the YouTube. We also have the YouTube channel. There you can find the live video being streamed, and also you can directly go to the link. We have the link to the video directly that you can find it through the social media or uh, any other medium that brought you here. So if you want to ask during the meetup, if you want to ask any question to the speaker or to anybody, to the host or to the speaker, you can use this comment section at the bottom of the page. And you can post your question here. Apart from that, we also have the YouTube live chat where you can post your question during the meetup over here. So today's talk is by Arun. So Arun is more into performance testing, and he's currently working for ATOS systems as a ATOS expert. And you can go to his LinkedIn profile and find out more about him. You can contact him from here. And he will today's talk. He will talk about shift left, shift right performance testing for superior and end user by end user. So Arun, over to you. You can take it up from here.
Thank you, Mayur, for such a nice introduction. Uh, I will share my screen and then we can start. Okay.
Sure.
And yeah, the for okay. So hi everyone. Good afternoon and good morning for the different time zones people. Uh, Today I'll be talking about shift left and shift right performance testing for superior end user satisfaction. Nowadays, shift left and shift right performance testing is absolutely required to start the performance testing at the early stages and do performance testing till end. So it's basically enabling the continuous performance testing so that you can do or you can make your application in a better way, right? Is it sharing went away? Hello?
Yeah, it's good, Arun. We can hear you very well, and we could
Okay.
also see your screen very well.
Okay,
We can go
that's
ahead.
great.
So meanwhile, if I get any question, I'll just put it through that.
Okay. So I have 12 years of performance testing experience, and currently I'm working as a performance test manager on ATOS North America operation, and I have been selected in multiple international conferences, webinars, and my papers have been published in a lot of forums. Okay. Today's session, I have segmented my presentation into mainly four parts so that people can easily understand it. First, I will talk about introduction, and then I'll discuss about what is shift left and shift right performance testing. Then I'll talk about traditional performance testing, or maybe like the customary performance testing, and what is the basic difference with the traditional performance testing with shift left and shift right performance testing. And lastly, I'm going to talk about why shift left and shift right performance testing is required for superior end user satisfaction, and how can we make it as an ongoing process for your business, for your applications. Okay. So nowadays, high performance for an application is no matter a lavish. It is a basic need. So you have to means gone are the days when you need to make your customer understand about the business benefits of performance testing. Now it's very easy. Everybody understand that application performance is definitely required, right? On the other hand, nowadays companies are much more concerned about the increasing rate of changes where they not only need to compete but also familiarize with time to market pressure. So they had to come up with the new features they very quickly. They had to release it quickly, and they had to do it improve performance. So there is always a pressure with the time to market, right? On and performance testing is now become very crucial. So it becomes very crucial every time application goes live, no matter whether it's a major release or a minor release or a sprint for agile based project. So it is time to make shift left and shift right performance testing absolutely mandatory since early stages of SDLC to avoid big loss and reduce overall cost. So overall, what I'm trying to say is like application performance needs to be given as a utter importance. It has to be given. It has to be a higher priority. It should not be afterthought. It has to be given as a higher priority. And the moment you will be giving that, your end user will be happy because they will see the application very quickly, right? And they will stay with you for long run. And you can do business when the your customer is with you for long run. Your customer loyalty gets increased, and you can do business in long run. So that makes you enduring in the market. So that's how it helps. So before I jump to shift left and shift right performance testing, let's talk about performance testing first. So performance testing is a type of testing used to measure the effectiveness or the responsiveness of a computer or a system or a network or a device, or it could be application for you, right? It is basically a non-functional attribute, and three major factors associated with performance testing are speed, scalability, and stability. So when talk about speed, that means how good is your application in terms of response. So overall responsiveness, right? And then scalability is the break point of your application, or maybe like the maximum number of users supported by your application. And whereas stability is whether your application can survive for a longer duration, or maybe like a sustainability, longer sustainability of your application. So that's overall performance testing. So when you talked if you look at this diagram, it's basically a typical SDLC diagram. We all know it, right? Requirement gathering, design, coding, testing, user acceptance, and production. So the all are we all know it, and we all know like testing happens in the testing environment, performance
Yeah,
testing happens at the
Arun,
sorry,
sorry for disturbing. Actually, we are not seeing your screen, so if you want to share your screen,
or not.
yeah, thanks, Arun.
No problem.
We can see now.
Okay. So let me make the statement once more, okay, so that people understand it. So when you talked about shift left and shift right performance testing, if you even if you look at this diagram, you can see like it's a typical SDLC diagram, right? As I said, requirement gathering, design, coding, testing, user acceptance, and production. And we all know like testing happens at the testing environment, performance testing happens at the staging environment, or could be a pre-production environment. But if you look at the shift left and shift right performance testing, what it says is like testing is shifted back to the extreme left that at the time of requirement gathering for shift left, and whereas testing is getting shifted to the production extreme right to the production, that is shift right, right? So when you talked about performance testing, it is like you had to start performance testing at the requirement gathering, and you had to do performance testing till or maybe till post pro deployment or even at the time of production, right? So that's shift right and that's shift left performance testing. Now let's take a pause and think like, can you do performance testing at the time of requirement gathering? The answer is no, right? How you will be doing, because your application is not ready, you are thinking about the requirement gathering, how you will be thinking about performance testing? So what shift left performance testing is saying, you don't have to do performance testing at the time of requirement gathering, but you can definitely do a lot of preparatory work which can help you later, right? So for an example, you can think about gathering performance testing, requirement gathering questionnaires. You can finalize your SLAs, that is service level agreement, what will be your response time, what is business expecting, or maybe like you can start finalizing your workload modeling plan also, like the number of users, number of transaction per hour, or how you're going to run it, what kind of application is this. So those are the things definitely you can gather at the time of requirement gathering. And then the moment your one particular module is done, you can certainly think about creating one business critical scenarios for performance testing and start performance testing exactly at the time of coding stage. The only thing you have to remember, your application should be functionally stable. Okay, so when I say it's functionally stable is like if you are trying to get a response time for a login button, and if your login button is not working, then there is no point of doing performance testing, right? So that's what I'm saying. First you have to be functionally working, that means login is working, and then you are trying to make a script or whatever the automated way of doing it, and then you can capture the response time. The advantage is you are starting very early stages, right? So your most of the issues will be covered initial stages, and as you are doing it at the early stages, it will be cost effective because your cost will be less, your timing will be saved, your release will be smooth, and overall it's the cost wise also your overall project cost will be on the lesser side. And the moment it goes to the testing environment or performance testing environment, you just have to do a integration of all the modules. So your chances of occurring issues at that point of time will be very less because most of the issues has been already covered and resolved. So only the portion that will be remaining is the integration portion of all the modules. So that's the benefits of doing performance testing at the early stages. And then there is another big advantage what we normally people don't feel it like is a design perspective, right? So when you think like you might have made a small design issue and you are cutting it at the time of pre-production, then you cannot revert it back because it will be a huge cost layer to the project, right? But if you are finding at the initial stages, you can definitely changes them, you can definitely modify them, you can do a lot of things. It's kind of you are coming with a upgrade design which will be more beneficial for your project. So that's the beneficials are doing shift left and starting at the time of requirement gathering. Let's talk about shift right. So you are doing what shift right performance testing saying is you have to do performance testing in production. Yes, you have to do it in production. When but you have to do it in more controlled manner because you are doing it production, right? So if it is a new application, it's coming first time to the market, then you can do a you can use your production system, do a full-fledged testing. And the advantage of doing production testing in production is your coverage will be always on the highest side because most of the your functional issue has been resolved, it went to a UAT and then it came to the production, so that way it's beneficial, right? But if it is not a new application, if your application is already exists, which is common for most of the cases, what will happen? So on those cases, you have to do it in more controlled manner. You have to think about the way your end users is not getting affected or your real user is not getting affected. So for an example, you can think about off hours, maybe like in the night time when your real user will not be in the system. You can start thinking about a specific client, specific account setup so that your real user data cannot be touched. Okay, so you have to do it in more controlled manner. But if you do it, you are going to get a real user feedback, and that real user feedback is definitely required. Okay, and then not only in a controlled manner of doing performance testing, there is another aspect of doing performance testing in production is a continuous monitoring. So you have to do it in a more, means you have to monitor your all server, your infrastructure continuously, and the moment you will be doing it, you are going to get the real user data, right? And that is what we're looking for in production. So when we talked about the continuous monitoring, nowadays most of the people are worried about the real user monitoring. They call as a RAM. RAM is nothing but a passive monitoring technology which records all the user interaction from any client server based application, or it goes to even cloud based application. No matter what is how the connectivity works, but you had to capture the real user feedback, and it is absolutely required because you need to know how your real users is being served. Are they serving quickly? Are they served without any errors? And if there is any errors, then which part of the application is failing, or which part of the application is throwing the error, and you have to proactively resolve those issues, and you have to do it very quickly so that your real user do not get affected, right? So that's
Sure.
what we are talking about. And then the other aspect is like, even if you look at the monitoring side, the continuous monitoring side, it gets evolved, right? So initial days we usually goes with the Parfone or maybe like N1 tool, which is a freeware tool for all the applications. You go to Windows, you use Parfone. You go to Linux based application, go with a lot of system commands like vmstat, like iostat, lot of comments are there, and then again you do in one, right? Then there are traditional performance testing tools, performance monitoring tools like sitescope, like IBM Tivoli, like the Willy Interscope later, which was acquired by CA. So then there the concept comes APM, all the application performance monitoring tool like Dynatrace nowadays. The Willy Interscope is also a CA. Willy Interscope is also a APM tools. And now people are talking about, even if you go to the Gartner report, they will always talk about by 2017 they come up with their report, and then they said like by 2020 almost 30% of the major application is going to be captured by DEM. They call as a digital experience monitoring, which is nothing but an upgraded version of APM only. And what it does is like it captures both the digital agents, not only human or the real user feedback, but also the machine user feedback, the way industry is going, right? So it supports both the ways. And they call it like a real user monitoring, which is for the real user, and then synthetic transaction monitoring, that's kind of scripted or typical user behavior, common typical user behavior, capturing the things, right? So those are the things that's coming to the market nowadays, talks about DM, but whole objective is you have to do continuously monitoring your server, and that's what we are talking about. So if we come back and we talked about shift rate, there are two aspects. One, you have to do it in production, you are doing it late to try to coverage, your coverage count will be always on the high side, and you are doing it in more control manner, and you are doing with continuous monitoring.
Sure. Arun, just I'll take a moment and I'll again explain to the users how to ask you a question. So
Yeah.
if there are newly joined user, they can see that. Alright, guys. So if you are watching this, you can go to this meetups page, and in the meetups page, in the bottom of the page, we have this comment section where you can post your questions. And apart from that, you can also go to this live stream URL, YouTube URL, where we have the live stream. You can post your question in the live chat. To go to this meetups page, you can go to softwaretestingboard.com /meetups, and you can click on ongoing link here, and it will take you to this page where we have the ongoing meetup going on. All right, thank you so much. Over to you, Arun.
Thank you. Okay, so let's take this tabular example, right? So you will get you will get easily understand. Like so, shift left is left towards your SDLC, whereas shift right is right towards your SDLC. Shift left is saying you have to start early, whereas shift right is saying late testing means you are do at the time of production, while you are doing it at the time of requirement gathering. So in a one liner, we call shift left is like delivering quality software at speed because you are starting early and you are doing it very early stages of your STLC. Whereas shift right we call is as a better quality software by real user feedback. So and it is like both is intentionally done, means both are having his own advantage disadvantage, and both is the whole objective is to make better customer satisfaction, superior end user satisfaction. So when you talked about shift left, we are basically talking about higher efficiency, we're talking about higher quality, which leads to a better or end user satisfaction, right? And whereas in shift right we are talking about better quality by real user feedback. So that means again it go into the superior end user satisfaction. But you have to remember both are equally important and both are unique way of doing performance testing, but which leads to a better quality of your application. Let's talk about traditional or maybe like the customary performance testing. So when you talked about customary or the traditional performance testing, we always remember major release. People do not include performance testing at the time of minor releases or maybe like a security patch update because they feel like it's a small release why performance testing is required. But they do not means what they do not calculate is even a small issue can create big performance issues, small changes can create big performance issues, right? So at the time of release calendar people only include performance testing for the major releases and it is nothing but a risk that they always go with. So traditional performance testing carries a risk. Okay. And then traditionally performance testing happens at the last moment at the time of pre-production environment. And even if you have performance issues, for an example your CPU is having issues, your response time is not matching with SLA, or you have memory issues, you do not have time to resolve those issues because if you are trying to resolve those issues, your business people will be waiting for it, your production people will be saying no, go ahead with the deployment because they wanted to do the deployment and they can take that risks. So basically it happens at the last moment and it do not have much time. And also we saw like the traditionally performance testing window is always short. As the window is always short, even if you know those issues, you cannot go back to the development environment, do those resolving those issues, get it regression tested in testing environment, then come back to the again in the testing or performance testing environment, do a iterative round of testing. So you do not have that time because you are doing at the last moment and people are be waiting for the deployment, right? So that way it carries lot of risks. And then in my experience I always see like that traditionally performance testing environment and the production environment do not match. They do not match not only in terms of the hardware side but also in terms of the configurations and settings. So a lot of cases we actually identified performance issue, we're trying to identify it's an application issue, but while we start analyzing we came to know it's not an application issue, rather it's a setting which is not matching with the production. So you are doing at the last moment and you actually did a 2 or 3 weeks of testing and then you come up with that kind of result, right? So it's you cannot afford to lose that crucial window because it is happening on the last moment, so it basically carries again a risk. And then again it talks about the hardware size or the size. Most of the cases, I mean, my personal experience, it will be like 33% or maybe like 50% or 25% scalable to the actual production environment. So basically you always have to do an extrapolation of your result, and extrapolation nothing but carries a risk, right? So traditionally performance testing never been equal to the production environment, and you always have to do extrapolation and you always carries a risk. And lastly, I'm going to talk about like traditionally performance testing never start early. It happens at the end moment, and we know performance defects are always costlier. And if you finding at the time of pre-production environment, it will be more costlier. Let me give you a small example. Like um, a small defect which you identified at the time of development stage and resolve the issues, performance issues, that going to cost you if it is $100. The same issue if you find at the time of pre-production environment, it's going to cost you $1,500. Okay, and the same thing if you are finding at the time of at the time of production, that means after post deployment, it's going to cost you $15,000. So think about the cost variance, 100 to 1,500 to 15,000. So traditional performance testing never start early, and it has been always a costly, and it's not the right solution. So overall, what I'm trying to say is like traditional or customary performance testing carries a lot of risks, and I will say answer to all these risks are comprehensive continuous performance testing. So comprehensive continuous performance testing is nothing but shift left and shift right performance testing. The word comprehensive comes because it's a comprehensive way. So you are starting from the requirement gathering and you're doing it till post deployment. So as it's a continuous or ongoing activity, it is like a one round completes and you are making yourself ready for your next round. It's a continuous process, it's no never stoppable activity, and you had to start from the requirement gathering and you have to do till post deployment. So your job is not finished at the time of pre deployment or at the time of deployment. After deployment also you have to do. So so when you talked about post deployment, what actually we do, as I said, like monitoring is an aspect, right? So what basically we have to do is like you have to monitor your end to end infrastructure, all your servers, and the moment you will be monitoring, you are going to get those real user feedback. You are going to get a lot of segmented matrices or maybe like matrices, and those segmented matrices actually helps you to know where actually the problem lies. And the other aspect is you can always analyzing your production log. So the moment you will be analyzing your production log, you are going to get a lot of data and statistics, and those data and statistics are absolutely required to make yourself ready for your next round. Let me tell you like in little bit in detail way like how it helps. So the moment you will be analyzing your production law, you will understand whether your the existing business critical scenarios is observing or whether a new business critical scenarios is has been added, which is not is a part of your testing, right? Or maybe like your transaction part is changing, whether your average load peak load value is getting changed, or whether it's like you are observing a huge user frequency because of you added a new features, or maybe like yes on a specific day on a specific time, uh, your transactional frequency for a specific business critical scenarios has been observed a higher side, or maybe like business is anticipating more user down the line. So those are the things which are very crucial to make yourself ready and make yourself doing a kind of actual testing in next round in your pre-production environment. So that way the analyzing production logs helps. So you have to capture those statistics, you have to get ready, you have to compare it every time before you are running your next round. So that way it helps. And comprehensive continuous performance testing needs to be done quickly. Yes, it has to be done quickly, and you can start thinking about the automation perspective, which makes you a more quickly, right? But the whole objective is to provide ample time to the development team. Yes, you have to give the time development because they have to resolve the issues, right? And you had to do it repeatedly. The moment it's come, you have to do it repeatedly so that you do not get any surprise in production, because you are doing it 2 3 times, you can actually repeat the same things, right? So that way it helps. And automation, again, the repetitive part of automation is always helpful, right? So that way comprehensive continuous performance testing helps. And again, like comprehensive continuous performance testing gives lot of confidence, lot of assurance ahead of your deployment, because it gives you a lot of new features every time and with improved performance. And if not improved performance every time, at least the same kind of maybe like as is performance, so that your end users will be always happy and they will remain loyal to you. So if you look at this diagram, I actually, this is nothing but a comprehensive continuous performance testing. But even if you feel like a shift left way, you have to just think about the left side of the diagram where you are doing planning, coding, building, and testing. So you are continuously doing testing, which is, and you are starting at the early stages, which is nothing but a shift left, right? Whereas in the right side, you are doing release, deployment, operate, and monitoring. So you are doing it in more control manner and then testing, right? More control manner of doing testing, and then you are continuously monitoring your application. So that makes you a shift right. So comprehensive continuous performance testing is nothing but a shift left and shift right performance testing, and it is comprehensive because you are not only taking care of shift left, which is normally most of the continuous performance testing methodology tells, but you are doing it shift right also. So that makes you a full fledged or comprehensive continuous performance testing. So let's talk about how comprehensive or maybe like shift left and shift right performance testing helps you in your superior end user satisfaction. So let's take a pause, okay, and think like your application is not doing good in terms of performance. What will happen? Your end users will be unhappy. They will leave to the application. They will go to the competitor side. They will influence others not to use your application. So overall, it becomes an unsatisfied user. Overall, it's not good for your business, and your end users are not happy, right? So that makes you not doing business in long run. And then again, like some of the people still feel like performance testing should not be a part of their SDLC. So what happened is like they do calculate the associated cost with performance testing, but they do not calculate the business benefits of performance testing. So as they do not do business benefits of performance testing, it become a business disaster for them. And I personally will say the things has been changed a lot nowadays. People actually do performance testing, but when we started our career maybe like 12 years back, we had to make customer understand like you had to do performance testing. There are a lot of benefits. Now at least we don't have to tell that. Okay, so that's a good side on the overall in the market. Okay, and what I'm going to say is like comprehensive continuous performance testing is absolutely business. And even if you do not feel like it's not a business for you, think about this way. Your application is having a two kind of users. One is your real user, that's your end users, and there is an internal user who will be supporting to do business, right? We know if your application is not doing good, it's not good for your end user. They will leave the application, they will go to the competitor side, they will influence others. And what will happen to your internal users? Their application is slow, their productivity will be decreased, your operation cost will be increased, and they will be demotivated. Your internal users will be demotivated. So all these aspects, that's not good for your business, right? So rather, comprehensive continuous performance testing, if you start in early stages, if you do it seriously, then it's a business. It can make you business in long run. And it is not applicable for it is not for the only for the agile based project. It is applicable for all projects. No matter what kind of methodology you are using, you can use it all the time, because the only thing is you have to start early and you have to do it till post deployment. You have to think about it like you have to ensure that your end users are always satisfied, and you have to make as a culture, or maybe like you have to make performance throughout organization. So performance is not a job only for the tester or the developer. Okay, it is a whole organizational job. You have to make it that way. So it's when you talked about performance, you had to, it's a job of stakeholder, it's a job of the application owner, it's a job of the operations team, it's a job of the tester, it's a job of the developer. So everybody needs to work as a team. They have to work as a collaborative way, so that they give application performance the higher importance. They had to give it as utter importance, and then only your end users will be happy. And the moment your end users will be happy, they will be they will stay with you, right? Let me give a statistics in terms of performance. So we have a good application and we have a great application, both in terms of the performance. So when it compare with the good application and the great application in terms of performance, it's just a matter of a second or 2 seconds delay. Maybe like a good application is giving you a response in a 5 seconds, whereas great application is giving you a 3 seconds, or maybe like 2 to 3 seconds, right? So that kind of a 2 or 1 seconds, how that matters to the overall business. So the great application gives you, on that cases, great application gives you a 5 times more revenue, 47% customer loyalty increase, 30% your internal user productivity increased, and 60% operational cost reduced. So think about making a 1 second to a 2 seconds response time changes, how that affects to the overall business. And these are higher numbers, and these are absolutely tells you that you have to do performance testing, and you have to do it seriously, and you have to do it for your end user satisfactions. So the last segment where I'm going to say like why shift left and shift right performance testing means, how can we make it as an ongoing process? We all know like shift left and shift right performance testing is giving you a lot of benefits. You are giving it, you are getting the features very quickly, and you are getting with every time with the improved performance, right? But if you want to make it as an ongoing process, you have to go with some of the mandatory things. And I think most of the companies and most of the organizations are actually following it. So there might be a small tweaking or small additional one or two things is required, but overall you have to start early. Yes, you have to do it early stages, and that's what the concept of shift left is saying, and it is actually cost beneficial model, and you have to be do it after deployment also. So the moment you will be doing the after post deployment, you are thinking about doing in production more control manner, so your real users will be always happy. And the whole objective is you have to do it proactively. So when I say proactively, you have to do proactively testing so that you can identify the issue when it actually occurs. There is no point of means when the actually occurs and you go and resolve it, it's not going to help your end user, right? So you have to do it proactively so that you can proactively identifying the issue, resolving the issues, or proactively measuring your response time, and making it better and better. Your environment should be, so your performance testing environment should be exactly similar in terms of the production. So that's a cost beneficial model. A lot of times customers do not agree, but you have to make them like, if you are making it exactly similar, not only in terms of the hardware size and the and the configuration and settings, it's beneficial because you don't have to do any extrapolation, and it helps actually because you are getting the real user behavior well in advance at the time of pre-production environment, so you do not get any surprise in production. If you have to do extrapolation, you always have to get a chances of surprise can be always there, right? And then there is a concept called data size. So when I talked about data size, the production data size and the performance testing environment data size. So normally it should be exactly 100%, because if your data side is a production replace 100% data in your performance environment, it's going to always give you the correct or accurate result. But a lot of cases it's not possible, but at least 70% data size is absolutely required. If it is not 70%, the result that you are going to get performance testing cannot be used as a benchmark or as a decision maker for your deployment. So always try to get at least 70% data size, if not possible 100%. But 100% is what which is required, which can gives you the accurate and the correct and precision result, right? So functionally stable. So what I'm trying to say by saying functionally stable is like your application should be always functionally stable, and your environment should be functionally stable. If both of them are functionally stable, then only you can do performance testing. As I gave the example, uh, that your login button needs to be working, then only you can do a capture the response time of login button, right? Or maybe like you can think about the environment perspective. Sometimes login button is working, sometimes it's not working. So that means like your load balancer is not working, so maybe like it goes to one server where it is working, but if it goes to the second server, that is not working. So that way you have to ensure like your application is functionally stable, both in terms of the environment as well as application. So that way you can start performance testing.
Hey Arun, I'll take another moment and I'll explain to the users who have recently joined on how to ask a question to you. So we get more questions from the users. Remind.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Sure. Hey everyone. So those who have recently joined, there is a quick thing. You can go to our software testing board meetups page. that is softwaretestingboard.com/meetups, and you can click on ongoing to reach out to this page. And in the bottom of page we have a comment section where you can post your comment to, if you have any question for the speaker, and we'll address it during the Q&A session. Apart from that, we also have a YouTube live chat where you can you can quick post your question in a live chat, and we'll post it to the speaker during the Q&A session. So thank you guys, and over to you, Arun.
Thank you. So coming back to like what are the things that you have to remember in shift left and shift right performance testing, you can start thinking about the real life conditions. Yes, so that makes you that makes you ready for your the actual behavior, right? So when I talked about real life condition is like the low latency, or maybe like uh, the 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 high bandwidth kind of thing, or maybe like low bandwidth kind of thing. So different places is having, maybe like let me give an example to make you understand. For an example, like people who are using from Delhi, or people who are connecting from New York, and people who are connecting from Arizona, three different people, three different response time will come because of the network differences, right? If you go to the Arizona side, there will be always a the low bandwidth, and there will be always a lot of interferences in the on the side. So those kinds of real life condition that you can think about it. Or maybe like nowadays mobile users are ramping up like anything, right? People are mostly traversing the application to the mobile users. Or maybe like people are using nowadays so many browser application games. It's not only, earlier we only used to do IE. Nowadays most of the people are using Google Chrome, and there are so many browsers. And then maybe like iOS application, they go to Safari. So those are different browser that you have to think about it. So those kinds of real life condition you have to make yourself, you have to test it in your pre-production environment, so that you do not get any issues, and you always cover those things. So that kind of testing you can definitely do. And then the load generator, the load generator is a machine which generates the load, right? So nowadays applications are actually deployed to the multi-geographical location, so people are across the globe are using it. And as I said, like different location, people different response time is going to get, right? So get the real user behavior. You had to put load generator one in Delhi, one in Arizona, or one in New York, and try to do the same kind of testing. So that way you will get the real user response time. So you have to make sure your load generator is not restricted only to your LAN, what most of the cases we do. Yes, initial round you can do in the LAN, but if your application is multi-geography location, you also have to think about the other users. You also have to think about a lot of other aspects. Yes, network takes a lot of things, but you definitely have to get that idea before you can resolve it, right? So those are the things that where load generator helps, or maybe like load generator has to be taken care. As I said, like at the time of analyzing your workload model, at the time of analyzing your production log, you are actually capturing those data, which is helps to make yourself ready for your next round. And those are the cases where you can see the business critical scenarios, or maybe like every time it has to be updated. So every time you run a test, or maybe like you are doing it continuous way, right? So every time you are doing, you are revisiting those numbers once again, and then if required you are updating those numbers, and then you are starting your next round, so that you are doing actual testing every time. You are doing the real user testing every time inside your performance testing environment. And shift left and shift right performance testing is a mandatory. Yes, as I said, it's not for, even a small changes can create big issues, right? So that way you have to do it mandatory. It's a mandatory. Even a small changes, even it's a security patch update, you can do it, and you can do it quickly because you have already automated concept, you already make it. But you have to make it mandatory, so that you do not get any surprise. There are the interfaces and background process also plays a role in performance testing. Let's talk about a it's a enterprise based application. So when you talked about enterprise based application, there are a lot of interfaces, right? So the when you do a end to end performance testing, you are basically taking care of your, the real user always talks about, they know like how the response time is coming. They would know, not worried about what interfaces it is going, right? And they do not have a visibility to the interfaces also. So you have to remember, when you doing performance testing, your interfaces should be up and running. And your interfaces also has to give you the optimum response time, because for end user it is always a end to end response time. So if your interfaces are not giving you the optimum responses, or giving you the bad responses, overall responses to the application or to the end users will be always bad, right? So that way interfaces has to play a role. They had to be up and running always while doing the performance testing, and they had to give you a optimum response time to make your end user happy. And then background process. So lot of cases, like we do a lot of background process, maybe like the batches or maybe like the concurrent jobs, so those runs behind the scene, right? Now question is it running at the daytime to support your end users, or is it running on the night time to for the reporting and for the administrative purposes? If it is running on the night time, then you have to do the performance testing off hours so that your real user do not get affected, and you can do the performance testing before the batch gets started, or maybe like you can start your performance testing once the batch gets completed, so that you can always exclude batch as a factor for your performance test result. But what will happen when background process runs to support your end users? On those cases you have to do the performance testing at the time of daytime, but once without batch and once with batch, so that you can understand like how batch plays to make your response times bad. Or so maybe like you can do the comparison, you can start thinking about how to play it, how to resolve those issues. But you have to take care of these things also, because those are the things also matters. One more thing is performance shift left and shift right performance testing needs to be done quickly. Yes, it has to be done quickly. The whole objective, as I said, like whole objective is to give ample time to the development team, so that they can resolve those issues. They can get more time, get tested in regression testing environment before you are doing a iterative round of testing, right? uh, you have to data randomization catching. So lot of cases we do, like when we do performance testing, maybe like we are doing a test with 100 user for an example, or maybe like 1000 users. We always try to do with a 100 user and then creating a lot of sessions to make it, or maybe like we use this 2 or 3 parameters and then doing it. So if you are using the same parameter, always a data caching can happen and results will be bad, right? So try to gauge as many different parameters as possible, so that data randomization means happens, and you always get the correct and accurate result. Also you have to think about load incrementally. So you start with the baseline test with a single user, then compare with SLA whether those SLAs are good. If not, then you start increasing the load, okay? And you try to increase in the load in a incremental way, so that one point of time when your application started failing, you can easily identify that point, which is like a stress point of your application, or maybe like the maximum now the number of users supported by your applications. So that way it helps. You had to shift left and shift right performance testing is a continuous as well as iterative round. Yes, you change one parameter at a time. If you are trying to change 2 parameter at the same point of time, you will never know which is causing the improvement or which is causing the degradation, right? So that way you always have to change one parameter at a time, and you do iterative round of testing. So that way it helps. Lastly, you means it's a continuously, you have to continuously track your application. So it's a application owner's job, or maybe like the stakeholders job. They have to understand whether your application is actually giving a the improved performance over a period of time, maybe like 6 months or maybe like a 1 year period. And they can compare each and every releases, and then you can identify, yes, the application is continuously tracking, the application is continuously giving good response time. You can start thinking about the extreme condition. You can maybe like you can start thinking like suddenly on a specific day when a lot of users comes, like how is going to happen. Or maybe like you can start thinking about the failover testing, right? Where your one node is down, how you are going to support with the users with multiple different nodes. Or maybe like you can start thinking about the spike testing, suddenly increasing the load or suddenly decreasing the load. So those are the extreme condition that also have to be tested inside your performance testing environment, so that you do not get any surprise. Service level agreement and benchmark is absolutely required. It helps you to compare your response time in every releases fashion way, right? So for an example, like you come up with this, you did 5 rounds of execution, you come up with certain number, that's the number will be used for benchmark, and that can be used for future references. So next round you do used your old benchmark, compare with them, and establish a new benchmark. So that way it helps. When I talked about monitoring, this monitoring is not the monitoring in production. Okay, this is a pre-production environment monitoring. So while doing performance testing, you can monitoring your application, you can monitoring your server. So the moment you will be monitoring your server, you are going to get those the performance counter, right? So those performance counters actually tells you where exactly your problem lies. So when you talked about analyzing your performance, let me tell you in a two liner, like we always looks for the client side statistics, maybe like hits per second, maybe like the response time, maybe like the throughput of your application. But the other side is server side. So when you are not satisfied with your client side, then you go with your server side, right? And those server side tells you to go to the specific counters of a specific application and capture the things, and then I analyzing it. And monitoring is something which helps you to capture those things. So this monitoring is also required while doing performance testing. And lastly, I'm going to say, like, shift left, shift right performance testing is a collaborative effort. It is an effort of everybody. When I say everybody, I'm talking about application owner, developers, stakeholders, operations team, and the tester. So they had to work as a collaborative. They had to work as a they had to understand, like, application performance is something which needs to be given as a higher priority, and they had to build as a culture. And the moment you will be doing it, I will say you can do business in long run, and your end user will be always satisfied. So overall, we can always say, like, if you do shift left and shift right performance testing seriously, then your end users will be always happy, and they will always get a superior end user response time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arun. That was a great presentation. We got a couple of questions from our users. So first question is by Hemantan Gama, and he says like he's a fresher in performance testing, and he has basic idea of using JMeter. So how can he get into performance testing?
Okay, so it's not a tool wise. Okay, so JMeter is a tool, and which is open source tool, and nowadays people are using it because we are all going on, the industry is going with open source, right? But tool wise it's fine, you can go with the JMeter, but JMeter also have some restrictions, right? It cannot going to support a lot of applications, right? Let's talk about SAP GUI, it's not going to support, right? Or maybe like typical enterprise based application it do not support, but it support most of the web HTTP, or maybe like the web services, the basic way, and even the SAP web they supports. So that way it's good. But what you have to learn to be on the performance testing is basic 3-tier architecture and the basic performance testing concept. So that is more important. So then you can use that experience or that kind of knowledge into different tools. Okay, so whether you are going with the neo load, whether you are going with the load runner, whether you are going with the seal performer, you are good, or even JMeter. So that way it's fine. The concept is all the applications, all the automation performance testing tool, most of the concept are similar. Okay, so even if you personally ask me, I do a lot of load runner projects because I'm doing in load run almost 12 years. I started with 7.2 and now it's like 12.56. But I also did some kind of JMeter. I did a Neoload also, but it's not like I learned that tool. I just uses my concept or load runner and then utilize it for other project, other tools. Okay, so you start understanding the performance testing concept. That's more important. Okay.
Sure. So I'll just take it over from here. Arun, I'll just start sharing my screen. And there are users who are online, and if you want to ask any question, you can use this YouTube live chat, or you can come to this software testing boards page, and at the bottom of the page, you will see the comment section. There you can post your questions. So apart from that, we have a question from one of the users. She's asking like, does your code get sabotaged by NSA? We tried to get more detail, but then user seems to be offline. So do you have any comment on that?
What is that last word? NS? What you said?
Does your CAD does your code sabotaged by NSA?
I don't know the acronym of NSA, but what I understand is like he's talking about code inspection and code review. Okay, so that is
Sure,
also a part of job. Okay, and that mostly done by the developer. And nowadays, a lot of tools are there. Cast is one of the tool, and there are a lot of other tools. I think he is talking about one of that tool NSA. I don't know, but yes, that's also part of the job, but code review and code inspection happens or maybe done by the application team or the development team only when they knows like their application is not giving a response time within 3 seconds or 4 seconds, right? Nobody goes directly, and we know like how hard if you talked about continuous and if you talked about any releases, even if you do not go with the continuous agile base, most of the cases like the application goes with the three major releases, five minor releases, which covers almost a whole year. So that makes you a like, or maybe like 2 year 2 months on a leave or 2 months on a holiday period, mostly February to November end. We always every month there is a release, it's a minor or major, right? So
sure.
people only do code inspection when they know like their application or their specific button is not getting the 5 seconds response time, it is going your 10 seconds under a load, right? So that moment they will go back and they will do code inspection. A lot of tools helps, but I think personally it's absolutely required to make your code better and better.
Got it. Sure. So that's all for today. We don't have any more questions from the users. So meanwhile, I'll just explain. Let's talk about the next slide. So thank you, Arun, for
Welcome.
the wonderful talk, and that was really informative. We learned a lot about shift left and shift right performance testing for a superior end user, and we'll definitely implement it. And more and more questions we get, we'll put you through the questions, and we'll try to get our users answer. So next thing is I'm going to explain users about the question answer site and meetup site that we have. So in software testing board, we have two sites, subsites live now. There is one is a software testing board's question answer site where you can ask a question, and other people from the community, they will answer your question. We have a start here guide, so you can go through the start here guide and understand how this question and answer site works. We have complete guide of features and everything here. And apart from that, we also have a meetup site where we organize monthly meetups, and you can get the updates about the upcoming meetups and past meetup on this meetup site. So next is YouTube. Sorry, next is a LinkedIn showcase page. So this is the showcase page where you'll be getting all the information about update from us in case of anything, like any new question is posted, any news or any new meetup or anything else, any new job, anything, any update we have, you can get it from our showcase page on our LinkedIn showcase page. And to get the updates on a meetup that we organize, you can go to meetup.com/software testing board Chennai, and you can subscribe, you can join there, and you can RSVP there to get a continuous update from us. So next thing, contact page. You can contact us by uh, going to softwaretestingboard.com/contact us, and you can also send us your feedback. And these are our social links. You can go there and you can follow us everywhere to get the constant update from us. Next thing is, if you want to be a speaker at the next meetup, you can go to our homepage, meetup homepage, that is softwaretestingboard.com/meetups, and you will find this Google form. There you can fill it up, and we will contact you for the next meetup, and we'll allocate the slot to you, and we'll contact you for the next meetup. So that's all for today. Thank you so much, Arun, for representing us, uh, for giving us idea on us performance testing. So
Welcome.
yeah, so talk to you guys on the next meetup. We don't have any more questions for the day. So thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.